Over the past decade, the craft beer industry has boasted some pretty impressive feats of growth. It seems like every time I turn a corner, I'm discovering another new amazing tap room. There are nearly 7,500 craft breweries in the US, 1,000 opened in 2018 alone. Those breweries now directly employ over 150,000 Americans and affect well over 500,000 jobs. Small breweries boasted $76 billion in sales in 2018, an 11% increase over 2016, with 5% overall sales growth in that same year. The trend is no different here. There were 35 craft breweries in Minnesota in 2011 when the Surly Law was passed. Today, we're approaching 200. That is some amazing growth in this industry over a very short period of time. The Twin Cities are the epicenter for Minnesota craft breweries. There are so many new and iconic tap rooms here that it can be overwhelming, even for beer lovers. We'll be getting intimate with a handful of them over the course of this series. And with so many legendary destinations to choose from, there's no way we can go wrong. So gather around the bar with me as I talk to these incredibly talented brewers about how this stuff is made. We're going to find out what all this hype is about and get to the bottom of a few cold ones. Let's all make a toast to the craft. Today, we're headed to Waldmann Taproom and Wurstery, close to downtown St. Paul. Waldmann is located in the rapidly growing West 7th neighborhood. This area of town plays host to an expanding number of new shops, restaurants, bars, and tap rooms. This is one of the most historic neighborhoods in the city, boasting some of the oldest remaining commercial and residential architecture in St. Paul. In 2010, Tom Schroeder and his crew broke ground on the renovation of one of these historic buildings in what would eventually, and actually unknowingly at the time, bring this site full circle back to its beginnings. Over the next 8 years, this building will be brought back to life in a virtual reenactment of the original construction project, using all hand tools and repurposing old materials and meeting Historical Society specifications. We can already see how the Waldmann Taproom sticks out among its competition. We're going to find out how this brewery stays current and competitive with other new, not just breweries, but now other wineries, distilleries, cider houses, and restaurants popping up all the time. This place looks super historic, so I bet we're going to get a story inside. It also looks really warm and cozy. Let's check it out. And here's the owner. Hi, Tom. I'm Diana.
Hey, Diana. Great to see you.
Great to see you, too. Thank you for having me. I feel like I've stepped back in time a little bit.
Well, you have. This is the only surviving commercial building from the Civil War period. It's an original German lager house, and we did our best to make it look just like 1857.
Wow. So it was originally built in 1857 as a lager house?
Right, the fall of 1857. Yep.
And it lives again as a lager house.
We reopened after 154 years of being closed, so that's got to be a record.
It's got to be a record. Well, I'm sure glad you opened.
Yeah, well, I am too, actually.
Cool. Let's go explore a little.
Sure. I think we have to, because to understand our beers, you really have to understand the history of the house.
Perfect.
Let's have a look around.
Okay.
And I think we should start in this front room. This is really one of the most historic rooms in the entire building. This is one of the two original bar areas. This did operate originally as a German lager house, and the Waldmanns lived upstairs, but here's where all the action happened.
Okay. Wow.
That's right. So a couple of people I want to introduce you to right away. The man on the left is Anton Waldmann. He's our namesake, the man who, along with his wife Wilma, opened the saloon in the fall of 1857.
Okay.
They originally came from Bavaria, but by 1852, they're living here in St. Paul, and obviously he decided to follow the money into the saloon industry shortly thereafter.
Good thing he did.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing for us. And the guy to the right is the man that built the limestone portion of the building. He was the stonemason, and that's Jacob Amos, Captain Amos, because 5 years after this project, he fought in the American Civil War.
Wow. And that's the stonework that we still see today.
It's all original.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
So what else do you see in this room?
I see so many eclectic chairs and tables and different pieces of art. Tell me about the chairs.
Well, the chairs, this is probably the largest collection of 19th century steamboat saloon chairs in the upper Midwest.
And those are these.
That's these bent handle
Okay.
chairs, yes.
Wow. And then the tables, are they significant?
Yeah, you know, the tables are actually built out of the studs, the rafters, and the joists that we salvaged from the restoration project. So this is all first growth Minnesota white and red pine. Some of these trees actually germinated before Shakespeare was born. That's how old this wood is.
Oh my God, wow. This is incredible. You can just feel the history in this room. It's really awesome to be a part of. I'm seeing a lot of wavy mirrors and wavy glass.
Yeah, every once in a while it's good to distort reality, isn't it? So
Yeah.
these are the original mirrors and windows. Throughout the building, you'll see hand-blown glass. And there's actually real silver behind that hand-blown mirror.
That's gorgeous. And this door, I love this door.
Yep, that's pretty special too. That's one of the two original doors that survive in the building, and that also gave us the color. That green was the original wood color on the baseboard, the chair rail, and the picture rail.
Wow. Oh my gosh. There's so much thought into everything that's in here, which is amazing. And I should talk about this. I've been
Careful
just
of the
warming
stove.
myself by this.
This is not a replica. This is a real fire. But yeah, there was originally a wood stove in the saloon, and there is today.
Okay.
It helps with the single pane glass to keep our guests warm.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm never leaving this room.
Yeah, well, I think you'll have to, because I
think
want to show you a lot more.
Okay, that sounds good.
Should we take a look?
Yeah, yes.
Let me show you upstairs.
Perfect. I've loved learning all about the history of this place. There's a lot of it, but I'm also interested in learning about you. So what was your life like before you decided to invest in redoing this space?
Well, a lot simpler, I'll tell you that. But I fell in love with this building way back in 1991 when my wife and I first moved into the neighborhood. And I literally recall saying to myself, when I saw this building for the first time, if I ever get my hands on that place, that could really change my life. And that's exactly what it did. I was a practicing attorney in downtown Minneapolis for 29 years. But when this opportunity came up, my life did a right turn and we pursued it with passion.
Yeah. So which came first, restoring the space or your interest in brewing?
Actually, oddly enough, restoring the space. We started restoring the building before we even knew it was a German lager house. And as we began to notice little quirks about the way the building was built, where it's positioned on the lot, this strange commercial cornice that appeared during the restoration, we quickly figured out that it had been a commercial building, and that sent me to the Minnesota Historical Society to do some primary research, and that popped all the saloon licenses from the 1850s.
What else should I know when I'm coming to Waldmann for the first time?
Well, what is Waldmann?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question. I think what you should know is you're about to be fully immersed in the experience of stepping into the past, experiencing in a setting that was designed for you to sit, converse with people, have great beers, have wonderful food, and everything about the building is really to create that experience. The great service that's provided, the ambiance, the fireplaces we've already seen, and the beer is core to that. If we didn't have the beer right, the experience wouldn't be complete.
And for people who are new to German food, what would you recommend?
Well, the first thing I would say is we were founded by a German, but by a German that fundamentally believed he was an American. And so our food is informed by German traditions, but it's very American. And in fact, I prefer to call it American frontier food. Simple foods, honest foods, all scratch made. But in fact, it does come down to a wide variety of verse, which are made according to our recipes by Red Table in Minneapolis. Sauerbraten, Spätzle, all the great comfort food that many of us in this part of the country grew up with. We've also got some great vegetarian sandwiches and salads, and our strudel is to die for.
That's amazing. So this seems to be quite the community fixture. Do you have a lot of regulars, and sort of how has the community been interacting with Waldmann since it opened?
Well, in myriad ways. In fact, from the very beginning, this was a community project. This project would not have been completed but for the support of my neighbors. We went through a total of 14 hearings with the city of St. Paul to try to reestablish Waldmann's original saloon on a lot that has since been designated a residential lot. So we're the only brewery in the state of Minnesota operating on a residential parcel, and that took a lot of effort. At all of these hearings, several neighbors, in fact, the last hearing, over 60 of my neighbors appeared to testify in support. And those are regulars that we see nearly every day here.
Tell me about the restoration process. I know it's a community fixture here, and it sounds like there were a lot of helping hands.
There certainly were.
Okay.
Yeah, actually the general architect for the project is a good friend of mine who also lives in the neighborhood. And John and I, as soon as we discovered it had originally been a commercial building, began conjuring up a commercial restoration and had a ton of fun. I mean, honestly, the restoration was as much fun as the operation of the business now is, because it was noticing all the quirks and all of the secrets of the building and taking note of the parts, the chair rail molding that you see, for example. We found the exact historic molding that was taken off of the wall, incorporated in other parts of the building, and our carpenters were enthusiastically replicating this with 19th century woodworking tools, while our architect was redesigning the front facade that had been obliterated after the Waldmanns had left. And when we finally took the plywood shield off the front facade, when it was fully restored, literally cars stopped on Smith Avenue. It created a horrible traffic jam because people hadn't seen the building as it was intended to look for over 90 years.
Wow.
So it was just a labor of love. I say that over and over again, but that's what it was.
That's amazing. How did you connect with your brewmaster?
Oh, Adam's fabulous. He is such a rock star. I was looking for a brewer that really wanted to return to German traditions of brewing, and in particular, decoction brewing, which is a method of brewing that focuses on that malt characteristic. And Adam Weiss was a full Siebel Diploma Institute graduate who did his residency in Munich, Germany, and hadn't found a brewery yet that allowed him to brew in that traditional German way. So it was a total marriage of opportunity.
Yeah, a total match made in heaven.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Better said.
That's great. No, it's okay. Well, I'm really excited to try his beers. Do you have anything special as we're approaching winter? Well, we're in the thick of winter.
Yeah. The beer that really characterizes us the most, I think, is our pilsner. I mean, an overlooked beer, but the pilsner combines all the maltiness of that decoction process with the complexity of both German noble hops as well as that American cluster hop that I mentioned. So that's where I want to start you.
Okay, I will follow you wherever you may lead me on this beer journey.
Let's go start it.
Okay, sounds good. We are headed now back to the brewery in Waldmann to meet Adam. He's the master brewer. I want to find out what exactly goes on here to make Waldmann's beers. Hey, Adam.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
So what do we have going on here?
Today we're prepping for a Schwarzbier, which we're going to end up brewing tomorrow.
Nice.
Pretty much what we're going to do is completely different than most breweries around the Twin Cities, but we do all decoction mashing here. The system was developed directly for German-style decoction mashing. As you can see, this is a mash tun / kettle, lauter tun / mash tun as well. Everything that we do here also goes into horizontal fermenting tanks as well. The horizontal fermenting tanks are strictly for lagering. The Germans built them just for lager yeast alone. That's kind of what separates Waldmann Brewery from most other breweries around the Twin Cities / Minnesota.
And is this setup designed because the type of beer requires it or because of the space configuration?
Well, as you talked to Tom before, it's the oldest lagering saloon in Minnesota. So Tom wanted to strictly stick to the type of brewery that this actually is. And it's the heritage here. It's exactly what he wanted, so
That's amazing.
we flew with it.
That's amazing. So it's got a real authenticity. I mean, it
Yeah.
totally tracks throughout every process of this whole establishment.
100% of the way.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how beer entered your life and brought you to where it is now.
I started as a home brewer like almost all brewers out in the market. I started really young, moved into it. I went into business and marketing at the U of M, but then my wife was gracious enough to send me over to Munich, Germany. And I got a master's in brewing beer through the Siebel and Doemens Academy.
Wow.
Pretty much everything that I learned at Doemens Academy is what I'm doing here right now. So it kind of comes a little bit easy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you're creating a new beer, what is that process like and where do you draw your inspiration?
I contact a few of my professors usually,
Nice.
look back at exactly what the older beers were and just sticking to style. All of our malt, if you were to go upstairs, and we can check that out later too, is all German malt, it's all German hops, it's all German yeast. We really stick to that profile of every single beer.
Does that ever pose any challenges importing all of those ingredients? Have you run into any?
Not yet,
Okay.
thankfully.
Knock on wood.
Yes.
Excellent.
Exactly.
Nice. So tell me about the difference between the different types of ales or lagers rather that are made here in-house.
So all lager yeast is going to take about 4 weeks. The ale yeast that we use is mainly for our wheat beers, so our Hefeweizen, our Amberweizen, and our Dunkelweizen, which is what we have on tap. Those beers will usually take around 2 to 3 weeks to finish out. We like to make our lagers last anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks before we can, from malt to drinking.
Okay. And how many beers are on tap right now?
Only 6.
Okay.
So we're not really pushing to try and get out or break out onto the market really strong. What we really want to do is just push for quality and have everything in-house be up to par for every single thing that we would really
That's
want.
amazing. How many times has Waldmann come out with a new beer? Or does that happen often?
We have 4 flagship beers, and then that allows for me to kind of experiment with 2 different. We have a Vinox beer that's going to be coming out on December 6th, which is a Christmas beer. It's got a little bit more malt forward, a little bit more melanoidins in there, as well as we kind of went against the German purity law a little bit by adding some cinnamon and some.
Okay.
But you know what?
I won't tell them.
We're not directly in Germany right
Yeah,
now,
that's
so
true.
we can go
That's
off
true.
the cusp a little bit.
Yeah, Tom was saying that the food has an American influence, and I feel like it's okay if some of the beer does too.
I couldn't agree more.
It sounds like you get a little bit of creative space to you really practice your artistry.
Yeah, I mean, this company has been so much fun to work for that Tom just kind of trusts me in a way that he lets me do what I want, as long as most of it sticks into the German purity law.
Okay.
So there is a fine line between certain things, but other than that, it's just kind of sit down with Tom and our general manager, and it's what's going to really sell on premise here.
Yeah.
And then once that really sells on premise here, we kind of hone in everything on that recipe. Then we try and move out to more so just a little bit of St. Paul as well as Minneapolis.
Okay.
But we're not trying to grow too fast. We're just trying
Yeah.
to stick right where we want to be.
Nice. And one more question. The German purity law, is that something that's like a published thing or is that like a Waldmann?
Yes, I couldn't repeat it for you, but if you ask Tom, he could probably say the entire thing. But it's
Wow.
beers only produced with malt, hops, water, and then finally put in yeast as well. So nothing
Wow.
else. Which is why the Vinox beer kind of goes out of the German purity law, because we added a little bit of cinnamon and orange peel to
Okay.
the boil.
Again, this is different from other breweries because these machines are performing multiple functions.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
It adds about 3 to 4 hours onto your brew day more than a single infusion mash.
Okay. Great. So if one were to draw a diagram, it would be up, down, over, back, and then where do they go from here?
So when it comes back, then it's all your wort. So you start boiling your wort for 90 minutes. After that, it goes through a heat exchanger, and it goes directly into our horizontal tanks where we pitch our lager yeast.
Oh my gosh.
And after the lager yeast is pitched, it will sit in there for primary fermentation anywhere between 10 to 14 days. And then we'll close up the tank, let the yeast drop out of suspension, and then we'll pump upstairs to our bright tanks to get ready to lager even longer for another maybe 21 more days.
Okay. Wow. And then it's ready to enjoy.
Yep.
That's amazing. What a life. Do you want to trade? No, we don't want to trade. Waldmann would not want me brewing their beers. Absolutely not. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks
going to go drink some of your beer. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
I promised you the great German Pilsner.
And this is it.
That's it.
In a beautiful Waldmann goblet of sorts. I'm sure goblet's not the right word.
Let's call it a Pilsner glass.
A Pilsner glass. Okay.
With my Dunkelweizen.
Whoa.
Prost.
Wunderbar. Prost. Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, that's lovely. If you encouraged me to drink this, I would do it blindly.
Well, good.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
This has
Thanks for
been
coming.
amazing. Oh my God.
I've so enjoyed this, Diana.
But what I'm not kidding about is I'm not leaving. So I'll need a blanket and a pillow because I'm sleeping downstairs.
You can curl up next to the wood stove.
That's where I'll be.
All right, fair enough.
Thanks, Tom. This is Waldmann. What did we learn today? Waldmann is here in the West 7th neighborhood. It's a great place for any of your gatherings. They have a great kitchen and amazing German beers on tap that are made here in-house. You don't have to look far to see that the Twin Cities are a playground for beer enthusiasts and fledglings like myself. Join me as I tour the cities investigating local breweries. I'm pretty sure there's a seat at the bar for everyone in the beer community. All these breweries wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the millions of home brewers that got started with kits in their homes just a few decades ago that have led now to this multi-billion-dollar industry. It's that labor or leisure of love for brewing that really drives forward the industry of finding new creative ways to make beer and revolutionize the craft.